Hi there folks, and welcome to the Word Solutions for this week's The Daily Rigour, issue number 234. So in our UK news this week, Welsh sheepdog Kim sells for a world record amount, so £27,100 to be exact. And we've to start off this week's edition by writing this amount as a number. So of course this question is all about place value. So here's our wee place value number line. We've got tens of thousands, thousands, hundreds, tens and units. So 27,000 means that that's two tens of thousands and seven thousands. We've also got our £100, so that's going to be 100, 0 tens and 0 units. So that is our figure as a number. So moving on to our science story. So scientists believe they've discovered the smallest reptile on Earth, where top to tail is only 22 millimeters. So we have to write this length in centimeters, meters, and kilometers. So there are 10 millimeters in a centimeter. So there's going to be less centimeters than there are millimeters. So that means it's going to be a divide to make it smaller, and we'll be dividing by 10. So moving everything down one place value, 2 tens becomes 2 units, and 2 units becomes 2 tenths, so that's going to be 2.2 centimetres. So for part B, we're going to use our answer in centimetres because there's 100 centimetres in every metre. There's going to be less metres, which means we need to divide by 100 this time, which means we're moving down by 2 place values. So units becomes tenths then hundredths, and tenths become hundredths then thousands. So that's going to be 0.022 metres. But of course there's 1,000 millimetres in a metre, so we could have just divided the original amount 22 by 1,000. So part C, how many kilometres? Well, if it's the smallest reptile on Earth, it's going to be an extremely tiny number here, but there are 1,000 metres in a kilometre. So there's going to be less kilometres, so we need to divide the length in metres by 1,000. So that's moving everything down a further 3 place values, which is going to give us 0.000022 kilometres. Now I've been doing a lot of running during lockdown. I think it's safe to say that I could even run that distance on my treadmill. Okay, so moving on to technology. So back in the day, when I was around about your age, GoldenEye was the game for the Nintendo 64, one of the first 3D consoles. So they started on a remake of it, so the graphics were quite limited all the way back in 1997. So the idea was in 2007 for the Xbox there would be updated graphics, but then because all the different parties couldn't agree, like the developers, Nintendo, the James Bond owners, the actors, to use their likeness again, they decided to shelve it. But this version that was made has now been leaked online and can be played there. But anyway, GoldenEye is the third highest selling game in history for the Nintendo 64, and here it is on the list. So can we work out all of these other top 10 selling games for the Nintendo 64 using the clues provided? So first things first, 38 divided by 2 is 19, which then gives us the letter S in the alphabet if you count all the way through. So unlucky for some, of course, is 13, so that's going to be M, the 13th letter of the alphabet. And 8 squared is 8 times 8, which is 64, which can't be a letter of the alphabet, but that's because there's a 64 at the end. We are talking about the Nintendo 64 after all. So can we guess the name of the game based on these clues? Well, of course it is Nintendo, so of course number 1 has to be Super Mario, and it's Super Mario 64 was the official name of the game. So unlucky for some, we already had that. That was 13, so M. So the square root of 121 is 11, which is the 11th letter of the alphabet is K. And 4 cubed is 4 times 4, which is 16 times 4, which is 64 again. We're not surprised to see this number featuring a lot. So second most popular selling game on Nintendo 64, how could it be anything else than Mario Kart? I wonder if you got that one right. So as we say, GoldenEye 007 is number 3. So number 4, we've got 3 times 4, which is 12, which is going to be the letter L. So 12 add 14 is 26, and of course the 26th letter of the alphabet is Z. So can you work this one out? For number 4, still quite a popular one in the list. So it's The Legend of Zelda. Well done if you got that one right. So number 5, 38 divided by 2 is 19, which we said was S. Again, we've got another S. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. So that's going to be B. So the title here, I wonder if you got it, is Super Smash Bros. So another kind of Mario type game. So 4 squared is 16, which is the letter P. We already said that this was 19, which was the letter S. So I wonder, bearing in mind it's Nintendo, you could maybe get the first bit. Could you get the second? This is going to be Pokemon Stadium. But we'll let you off with the E acute if you just put a regular E. So 9 take away 5 is 4, which is going to be D. So square root of 121, we already had that, is 11, which is K. So tricky one here, is it? Well, it is Nintendo, one of their most popular franchises. This is going to be Donkey Kong. And the 2-digit bit at the end was 64. We are talking about the Nintendo 64 console. So 9 take away 5 is 4, which is D. Square root of 121 is 11, which is K. 9 times 2, which is 18, which gives us R. So the temptation again is to say Donkey Kong, but if you look carefully, there's not enough letters. It's actually Donkey Kong's wee cousin or whatever it was, I can't remember. It's Diddy Kong, and the R stands for racing. Okay, so 38 divided by 2 is 19, which is going to be S. You can see that most of the titles for Nintendo 64 started with S. So minus 6 add 9. Minus 3, sorry, add 9 is 6, which is F. And 2 to the power of 6 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which works out again as 64. Now this one here, this was Star Fox 64, which was like a fly in a spaceship game. They tried to make it quite Star Warsy, slash Bucky O'Hare. Don't know if you remember that cartoon. I didn't particularly like that one, but number 9 on the list. I think it came with the console, which maybe accounts to some of the sales when it was released. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, which is B. Square root of 121 is 11, which is K. So this last one, even I had no idea about, and I was a big Nintendo fan. So it's Banjo-Kazooie. And that is your top 10 list. Well done for each one that you got right. Okay, on to business. So it turns out 88% of us have been pronouncing Nutella wrong all along. I'm not having this. Apparently it's Nutella, and 88% of us have been mispronouncing it, saying Nutella. So what percentage of people surveyed have been pronouncing the chocolate spread correctly as Nutella? Even though I'm not having it, I don't agree with it, but anyway. So obviously we need to take the 88% away from the total, which is 100%, so 12% of us have been pronouncing it correctly. Of course that figure's that low because we don't agree with it. Right, okay, so how many 375 grams of jars of Nutella could be made from the amount of Nutella made every year? So this is quite a tricky one. Let's go through it. So 365 tons every year. We need to change this to grams. So there's 1,000 kilograms in a ton. So if we multiply by 1,000, that's then going to give us the number of kilograms made every year. And there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram, so we times by 1,000 again to change it to the amount of grams made per year, which is a huge amount. So there's 1,000,000 grams in a ton. Okay, so we need to find out how many times 375 goes into this big number. So we need to divide by 375, which comes to this really big number here. But because we're asked how many jars could be made, we need to round down irrespective of what comes after the point, because this means 973,333,333 and a bit jars. So we need to round it down to the whole number. So 973,333,333 jars is the answer. So how many hazelnuts would be in these jars? Well, there's 52 hazelnuts, apparently according to their claim, in every jar. So we need to take this figure and we need to multiply by 52, which gives us a ridiculously large number of 50,613,333,320 hazelnuts. So, hope you got okay with this week's task, guys. That was our word solutions for issue number 234. So, good. We'll see you again next